Hey everybody, time for the weekly news recap for the 28th of August to the 3rd of September 2023. So, what happened this week? Well, a couple of things. First of all, Nintendo had a Super Mario Bros. Wonder Direct where it kind of went into a bit more detail on what is to be expected and their new 2D game. We're going to the Flower Kingdom to collect a bunch of flowers, I guess, including the Fire Flower, as you might imagine. Mario and crew have been invited there by Prince Florian, but of course he forgot to invite Bowser. Bowser crashed the party anyway and steals the Wonder Flower and becomes a castle somehow? Question mark? Not entirely sure how that works, but okay. Let's not question Super Mario Brothers magic situations. Anyway, yeah, Bowser becomes a big castle and takes over the place. So the Switch, not the Switch Direct, the Wonder Direct kind of just shows off a bit of the story and then a bit of the different things that are coming to the different levels. Some interesting things, obviously, are the Wonder Flower itself, which drastically changes levels. And kind of just is meant to be like a surprise mechanic thing, in that like you hit the Wonder Flower and something weird is going to happen. That's kind of the deal. Something wonderful, if you like. Elsewhere, it showed off 3 new powers that Mario will have. So he can turn into an elephant, which makes him super strong. I think he just like breaks through bricks and knocks through enemies and stuff like that. It's showing off at different biomes. There's like a big hat power, which is like a glider. There is a bubble power, which lets you put enemies in bubbles, but also create platforms for you to jump on, which is kind of interesting. I'm very curious how that's going to work. If they'll actually be required, or if it's a case that if you have this bubble power, it will just help you get to typically inaccessible locations. Something like that. Different characters you can play as. It seems Toadette is no longer the easy mode character. She's her own full-fledged character, so it's Mario, Luigi, Peach, Daisy, and then 2 male Toads and Toadette. And it looks like the Yoshis. Hey Melvin, how you getting on? It looks like the Yoshis will be the easy mode character, and Nabbit continues to be the extremely easy mode character. One kind of interesting thing I did see on the world map, you aren't locked into progression of levels. You can, or at least at some cases, you are able to sort of branch off and do levels in your own time or in your own order, whatever way you want to go. You're just locked by these Wonder Seeds that require you to unlock levels, which is pretty typical of the later 2D Mario games. Anyway, there's a lot in that Wonder Direct, so I encourage you to give it a look. It's 15 minutes long or so. There was then a further follow-up 20-minute thing on the Treehouse Live. These Wonder Flowers do hang out every now and then, and they like talk to you. Or not talk to you, they talk at you. I don't think you can talk back. Anyway. We didn't get to appreciate the new voice, because obviously this is not Charles Martinet playing Mario anymore, since he has retired from recording. So, yeah, we didn't get to see what the new voice was like, and I haven't watched the Treehouse video yet, so it might appear there. Anyway, there's the character roster for you. Right, moving on. Okay, so a couple of different things coming out of Gamescom and coming out of various other developer things. This is Soul Frame. So this is like think of it as like a fantasy version of Warframe. Same developer, new IP for them, but it is effectively Warframe, but now medieval fantasy instead of sci-fi fantasy. So this is more of a tone-setting trailer, but there is a much larger video that was played during TennaCon, which is the Warframe con, that showed off like proper gameplay. It looks really good. I never really got into Warframe because I'm not really into shooters that much, but I'm into, as you probably know if I'm playing and watching this channel, I am very much into medieval fantasy stuff, so we'll have to keep an eye on this and see how it turns out. Anyway, that's Soul Frame, no release date or anything like that. Who knows when it's coming out. Again, there's a much longer video if you're very interested, 20 minutes or so. Okay, Holston. This kind of sort of came out of nowhere. There's a demo available on Steam right now if you want to play it. So it's got this kind of top-down, isometric survival horror thing. And then when you get into combat, you can sort of just swoop into over the shoulder, which is really cool. Really, really cool. And like the kind of pixelized art style is really nice. I'm really here for it. I'd very much like to play this game. I have the demo downloading currently, so I'd give it a shot. Hopefully it runs okay on Steam Deck. It looks interesting. What I'm not too sure of is that I think it's a roguelite. I don't like that aspect of it. I'd rather it was like a scripted, linear survival horror type thing. So we'll see. I think the roguelike might be its separate mode. Anyway, we'll have to see how that turns out. No release date for it, but there is a demo on Steam. Bloodlines 2. Okay, so this was coming out of PAX. So PAX is going on at the moment over the weekend. I think today is its last day, possibly tomorrow. Labor Day in the US, so they might get an extra day out of it. Anyway, alright, so Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 has been in and out of development for like 15 years at this point. We did think we were finally going to get it like 4 years ago. 2021, no, 2021 is only 2 years ago. No, anyway, feels like it was much longer than that. But then some things fell through on the developer side. And the license IP owner was like, yeah, this isn't turning out the way we wanted it to. We thought it had been knocked back and we were back into development hell, but now it has re-emerged with a new developer. So the Chinese Room is taking on Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. You may recognize the developer name and you might be thinking, they've never made any game like this. It's true, they haven't. They've never made a game like this, so I don't know how to feel about it. So the Chinese Room are the people responsible for Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, Dear Esther, and the second Amnesia, I think. Machine for Pigs, I think was them. You might note none of those have first-person action RPG combat stuff going on. They're actually all very slow, exploratory, narrative-based stuff. Now, the narrative-based stuff is good because Vampire the Masquerade is an RPG. Stories are kind of important in those, but it is really questioning, since they've never made something like this before. It's an interesting developer to pick, but I guess they liked the pitch. So if you're not familiar with how video game development is done for pre-existing IPs and licenses, typically a bunch of developers will pitch the IP owner or the publisher or whoever, and be like, here is how we would do the game if you gave it to us, and they give them like a previs thing or maybe like a vertical slice type thing if they're very ambitious about it, and a bunch of different developers will show that off, and in general they'll be like, we'll do it for this and we'll do it for this amount of money, lowest bidder kind of thing. Apparently they like the Chinese Rooms one, so grain of salt, we'll see how it turns out. Who knows how long development is still to go on it though. Anyway, moving on. Vanishes Ghost of New Eden, and also Warhammer Space Marine 2, which we're going to have a look at in a second, had some gameplay shown off as part of Focus Entertainment's sort of mini showcase they had during the week. So Banishes Ghost of New Eden is the next game from Don't Nod, so that's the people behind Life is Strange, Vampire that we played on the channel, Remember Me, bunch of other games. So Banisher seems to be from the team who are doing Remember Me and Vampire. They're more into the action adventure side of things, as opposed to the Life is Strange people or the Twin Mirror people who are more into the narrative end of things. Banishers is this idea that you come to the new world, and there's a bunch of ghosts there that have never been exorcised before, because you're bringing Christianity to the new world, I guess. I don't know. This video just shows you a quest. This person tells you about this beast that's been seen in the woods. You're like, I don't think it's a beast, I think it's a ghost type thing. You do your shenanigans. There's a bit of combat. I'm going to skip ahead to actual gameplay stuff. I do get a distinct, vampire feel to it. It does have that kind of like distinct attacks, it doesn't feel like the combos move freely, although I do like that the two characters seem to intermingle. How that works, if you have control over it, or does it just happen, is something I'd be interested to see. Let's skip further to bigger enemy fight. You do like yeah, it's like the big boss fight. So you do like a ritual, and you know, bring this thing into the corporeal world so you can fight it and then finally banish it. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's got the it's got a bit of the vampire combat to it, but I don't think you ever fought anything this big. I'm trying to remember the game now. All the enemies you ever fought in Vampire were humanoid or not that much bigger, at least, than you. So this is something new for them. And again, I haven't played Remember Me, so I'm not entirely sure how the combat worked in that. Anyway, that's Banishers. I think it's out the end of the year at some point. And then Warhammer Space Marine 2 was showing off a lot of its horde tech. So this developer worked on World War Z. And World War Z, if you've played it, you'll know that the zombies are they come in like a wave. If you've seen the film, I suppose you'll have an idea of what I'm talking about. The game isn't quite as big, but it's the same idea. They come in like a wave, like a natural phenomenon of just bodies just rolling over each other to try to get at you. And they're repurposing the tech to use for the kind of alien creatures that you fight in Warhammer. I'm not even going to attempt to name them because the Warhammer nerds will be angry at me, but that's the kind of thing we're looking at. So I'm going to skip ahead to that because a lot of this is just tone setting for Warhammer, and if you aren't a Warhammer fan, I don't think you'll get most of it. But the idea is that you'll be fighting many enemies, and that they won't be very difficult. The issue will be that there's just so many of them that they'll wear you down over time, and then there are a couple of elites in there every now and then that you'll need to spend a bit more time with. And it's kind of leaning a little bit into some of the changes Doom Eternal made, in that a lot of your attacks and a lot of your abilities also generate resources for you. So certain types of kills will generate ammo for you, certain types of kills will generate armor, generate health, that kind of thing. And you sort of swap in and out the different abilities. You know, you go for different attacks depending on what you need at the moment. Do I need armor right now? Okay, I'll do this attack. Do I need ammo? Do I need whatever? So on. I must be thinking of a different video where they showed off like the big wave of creatures, which you can see is like it's a lot of creatures on screen. I'm gonna seek through this to see if it can show off more. Doesn't look like it. I must be thinking of a different video. But yeah, it's very PS2 era, PS3 era gameplay, but it just looks really nice, and there's nothing wrong with that. Those games were fun at the time, and they'll be fun now as well. Plus, who doesn't like the idea of a big chainsaw sword? Anyway. Yeah, it's pretty big environments, pretty big vistas, and you know the style of Warhammer is a little, you know, it's difficult to dismiss it because they've got a lot of style, very strong art direction for the whole series. Anyway, we'll move on. Okay, Mystery Puzzler: The Case of the Golden Idol now has a free browser-based demo, so you actually have very few reasons not to play this now, as well as some new DLC that I will have to get around to because that's now 2 DLCs. We played this on the channel earlier in the year. There's a full Let's Play of it if you want to check it out. I would suggest you actually play the game first before you do that. But anyway, you can do 3 cases for free through your browser of 2022's one of 2022's best games. My only issue with the game at the time was that it was too short. And now there are 2 DLCs for it that I really do need to get around to at this point. So if you add in the DLCs, I imagine it's pretty decent length. If you are or remember the game Return of the Obra Dinn, The Case of the Golden Idol plays somewhat like it. It's kind of kind of the way the game works is you are given a series of statements, not unlike Return of the Obra Dinn. You know, like who was the captain, who was the first mate, and so how did they die, etc. In Return of the Obra Dinn. Case of the Golden Idol, you do have that kind of thing. It's like such and such were present. Then it's like sentences for like this person attacked this person or this person murdered this person or whatever. And you need to sort of deduction on who is who and like sub in the words and stuff like that. It's really well done. I'm doing a terrible job of explaining it. But it's a great game. Really fun. I would highly recommend. And now it's browser based for a little bit. You can play it there. Cave Story Plus is this week's Epic Games free game. Arguably the most well-known indie game of all time. Cave Story Plus features... Okay, it's definitely arguable that it's the most well-known indie game. Features an original story brimming with personality, mystery, and fast-paced fun. Run, jump, shoot, fly, and explore your way through a massive adventure reminiscent of classic 8 and 16-bit games. Yes, Cave Story is really good. It's really good. Just give that a shot. And it's free, so, you don't really have any excuse. But you do, if you don't have a decent PC, I suppose. Okay, Xbox Game Pass games for September. Well, as you might imagine, Starfield will be joining Game Pass this month. But as well as Starfield, you'll have Gris, which is a side-scrolling platform game about loss and grief and trying to bring color back into your life after you've lost somebody. So Gris, it's grey in French. And the idea is you kind of gradually bring color back to your life after you've lost somebody. It's a good game. I really liked it. Lies of P is Pinocchio Bloodborne game, which I'm sure you've seen plenty of trailers or GIFs or whatever if you've been on social media at all. Video game stuff. Recent hands-on things have suggested that they have fixed the dodge problem from the demo. People, not unlike myself, I had the same complaint, to be honest. We're saying that the dodge mechanic feels a bit slow. And that was attributed to the dodge happening on release of the button instead of pressing of the button. And that might seem like a weird thing to be thrown off by, but when you're so used to like the Souls games, where the dodge happens when you press, and suddenly there's like a half a second delay now when you press, it does sort of throw you off how it works. Apparently they fixed it at this point. Party Animals is a follow-up to Gang Beasts, so if you play Gang Beasts, you'll know this is like a 4-player nonsense, physics brawler thing where you like smack people and try to throw them off buildings or try to throw them into like grinders and stuff like that. It's very funny and very slapstick thing. Party Animals is the same deal, but they just have a budget this time. Payday 3 is just Payday and Payday 2 again. It's not really a dismissal. Payday does a good job, and I'm sure Payday 3 will do a good job. Cocoon is the next game from one of the creatives on Limbo and Inside. So just think like a trial and error physics puzzle thing. The idea with Cocoon is that you can jump into gradually nesting worlds. So inside cocoons, there's another world, and then inside that world, there's another world, and so like Matryoshka dolls, those Russian nesting doll things. And then the idea is if you can find the like object inside those worlds, you can pull it out of that world and take it into the one world up and put it down there, and it'll do something else, and you can jump into it again. And it's all sorts of weird nesting stuff going on in Cocoon. And I think that's out on PC already. I could have sworn I saw it crop up in the release date stuff. Maybe I might have read August 29th instead of September 29th, to be fair. Anyway, that is the plan for Game Pass this month. PlayStation Plus Essential, which is the bottom tier of PlayStation Plus. This is basically you have access to the online and the rotating monthly free games. So this month you're going to be looking at the rebooted Saints Row, Black Desert Traveler Edition, and Generation Zero. Traveler Editions suggests it's like a small version of a board game, but I don't think that's what they're going for. Anyway, the rebooted Saints Row, that kind of... You're not entirely sure why they bothered making it, but whatever. So it is, GTA clone kind of thing, but instead of going down the Saints Row avenue, which was gradually getting stupider and stupider in a good way, like it was very dumb, and they really leaned into like the juvenile humor of GTA, but just went way further with it. Whereas GTA sort of getting a little bit more serious, and now the rebooted Saints Row went back to being kind of serious, and still it still has a bit of comedy to it, but it went a bit too serious, I think, for people who were fans of it and were more fans of Saints Row because it wasn't GTA. And that's kind of what split a lot of people on playing it. I didn't play it for that reason. Like I was like, no, keep going with the dumb stuff. Anyway, it's free now. Free. You do have to pay your subscription. Black Desert Traveler Edition. Black Desert is an MMO. So think, World of Warcraft, Fantasy 14, that kind of thing. Black Desert, you might know it better because of its character creator. It has a very deep and very impressive character creator. The rest of the game, I don't know. I haven't heard whether it's good or bad, to be honest. All I've ever heard about Black Desert is, oh, the character creator is amazing. The Traveler Edition is the base game and like a couple of the expansions, but I don't think it's all of them. It's probably not the latest one, probably the way they did it. Generation Zero is an open world survival thing. So instead of you surviving against like zombies or something like that, you're surviving against these mechs that have gone nuts. And they've gradually taken over the landscape and they're patrolling it for humanity. So think Terminator, basically. It's kind of Generation Zero. And you can band together with other people to build outposts and forts and kind of thing. Try to take on these mechs. So those are your free games for PlayStation Plus Essential. But we're not done with PlayStation Plus or Game Pass because prices are going up. PlayStation Plus prices to go up by 35%. So this is affecting the 12-month subscription. And I think the 3-month and 6-month already went up. Not sure. Yeah, I know, Melvin. I know. It's actually going up by a significant amount too, which is not great. So the current pricing structure is €60. I'm going to do it on euro because we're in Ireland, but the numbers are effectively the same. Just take a tenner off for the UK and you'll be close enough. €60 for Essential, €100 for Extra, and €120 for Premium. That's what it is currently, and that is changing to €72. Why the €2? I don't know. Although I appreciate they're not just matching the number with the US. That is a change. Have they discovered that? Have they discovered? That's true. That one is American technically, the way it works. USian. Yeah, I guess they finally discovered that exchange rates exist, and they're not just using the number and changing the symbol for euros. Anyway, €72 for Essential, €126 for Extra, and €152 for 12 months, which isn't great. You need it in pesos. I have no idea. Do you just add a zero at the end? I do not know what the pesos exchange rate is. Anyway, it's going up quite a bit, and you would think for such a large bump that maybe they're adding something to the service, to suggest why. No, there's nowhere for any additional value it would offer. They're just fuck you. You're a captive audience at this point, so we're gonna put the price up. You need to pay for PlayStation Plus to play online, so they have you. If you have any interest in playing any game online, basically any game that has a significant multiplayer component to it, you're gonna need PlayStation Plus. So they have you. So they're just gonna whack the price up. And there's news elsewhere, that the stock price went up for Sony when they did this by a significant jump. So they'll probably do it again because this is how inshitification happens. You have your product and you make it so that it's nice for players. So the PlayStation Plus was cheap enough at the time, and you got a decent number of games every month, and it was like, yeah, this is great. And then it gradually got, okay, the games aren't getting as good anymore. Okay, now the price is going up. Now we're just doing it because the shareholders like it. It's not just Sony being shitty. We also have Xbox being shitty. Microsoft completely removes recently nerfed £1, $1 Xbox Game Pass trial. Was also Euro. This is Eurogamer. This is Eurogamer, and they're doing it in pounds because it's a British site, not part of the EU anymore. But whatever. Moving on. Just days ahead of Starfield, so they're like, nope, you don't get to play Starfield for £1 or $1 or €1 or whatever. No, if you want to play it, you got to sign up properly for Game Pass or buy the game outright. So they only brought the thing back in like June, I think, or May maybe. The option has been removed completely from Microsoft's Xbox Game Pass sign up, so now you can't do like a trial month anymore. You have to just pay for the month outright. It was only relaunched back in July of this year, so it hasn't even been around. It's been like 2 months. Generously, it's been 2 months, maybe. Only for it to be scrapped again. The deal had existed for years before that, so ever since the Game Pass was a thing, you have always been able to do like a nominal amount to do the first month. And the euro £1, $1 thing was actually just your credit card being tagged, just so they knew it actually existed, so that when the next month came around, they could charge you properly for it. That's all it was. It's like a service fee, mostly to just check that the credit card actually exists. Anyway, you'll find that a lot of subscriptions that have that 1 month thing will do the same thing, and they'll just refund you the pound, whereas Microsoft, well, we're not refunding them, keeping that pound. It was temporarily moved at the end of March, shortly before Redfall. And I guess they felt the same thing. No, you gotta pay for Game Pass for Redfall. And people were like, yeah, no thanks. The game's shit. They went, fuck. They're right, it is shit. Okay, we're gonna do the same thing for Starfield this time. So yeah, you won't be able to play Starfield for £1, basically. This is where they're going with that. I guess other games they don't feel as strongly about, but Starfield they do. Anyway, those are talking about some of the games you can play eventually, but what if you wanted to play something right now? Well, you can play Sea of Stars. Sea of Stars is the next game from Sabotage Studios. Sabotage, you might know, did The Messenger, which was a throwback to games like Ninja Gaiden, the original Ninja Gaiden, and Shinobi. So like 16-bit ninja platformy games. Sea of Stars is more of a throwback to something like Chrono Trigger or Star Ocean, those kind of games. So some of the older 16-bit RPGs, JRPGs from PS1 era mostly. We played a little bit of this during Steam Next Fest. It's really good. I really liked it, and I'm actually really looking forward to playing it. This might be one that I play off stream, because I am looking for a game to play off stream, and I think it's like this. It's between this and Baldur's Gate, really. Whether or not I'm gonna play which of them I'm going to play off stream, more or less. I'm leaning a little bit more towards Baldur's Gate because I don't think I'd be able to restrain myself from waiting for like a week in between bouts. Like I'm like, nah, I won't be able to do that. I'm gonna need to play that every day, basically. But yeah, Sea of Stars has launched directly into most subscription services as well. So if you have Game Pass or PlayStation Plus, you can play this now as part of the subscription. But otherwise, you can get it on Switch and PC and Epic Game Store and a bunch of other places. Even saying that they has launched into the subscription services, it has also sold a lot. So it's probably people on Switch, because the Switch has become basically the JRPG machine at this point. There's so many have been added to it. That is a scary boss. Okay, anyway, that's Sea of Stars. Just sneezed on all of those guys. And then there's also Under the Waves. Under the Waves is the next game from Quantic Dream. So, if you are familiar with Heavy Rain or Beyond Two Souls or Detroit Become Human, those kind of games, those sort of choose your own adventure type things. Under the Waves is the next one of that. I think it's a much smaller game. I don't think the plan was for it to become like a big budget thing like Detroit. So it's like made by a smaller team. And as far as I'm aware, David Cage is not attached to us because he is busy fighting a what's the word? Not slander. The other one, libel, something case at the moment, where they're saying like he's a huge perv and he's shitty to work with and such and such. He's like, no, I'm not. Everyone loves working with me. No, they don't, David. Anyway, we'll see. We'll see how the lawsuit turns out. But as far as I'm aware, he's busy with that. So this is being handled by a different team. I think David Cage is probably more attached to the Star Wars game, which is going to be their much bigger budget thing. So this is more of a pay the bills kind of game in between Detroit and Star Wars Eclipse. They're going to release this one. So I don't think it's going to be as big a title. But it should be interesting. So you are stranded under the waves. I'm not sure if you're stranded, actually, now that I think about it. I think you have voluntarily chosen to stay under the water to look after this installation, and it's causing stress in your marriage, as you might imagine, etc., etc. And then I think there's some other, horrible horror from beneath the waves is stalking you at the same time. Anyway, moving on. Anyway, it's now time to talk about the worst parts of video game industry. So, yet another Rockstar Games veteran has left the company. So, Kotaku decided not to keep my highlights for this. Thanks very much. Appreciate that. 16 years, Michael Unsworth has seemingly left the company that made Grand Theft Auto 5. So yeah, Rockstar, I'm sure you know, but they're the people behind GTA, Red Dead Redemption, and Bully, and third Max Payne, but not the first two. Anyway, Michael Unsworth, senior writer. He was a writer on Red Dead 2, Grand Theft Auto 5, Max Payne 3, LA Noire, the original Red Dead, Grand Theft Auto 4. He's been there a while. He's been there since the PS3 era, basically, for Rockstar. And they say seemingly he's left because there was no official announcement of him leaving the company. It's just mostly just checking his LinkedIn, and his LinkedIn suggests he's not part of the company anymore. So it hasn't been officially determined if he's still with them, but it is growing a. Sorry, he is joining a growing trend of veterans of Rockstar jumping ship. So Laszlo Jones, Dan Houser left in 2020. Laszlo Jones was a producer working on pretty much every single GTA game since GTA 3, and then Dan Houser is like co-founder of Rockstar. Been there since the beginning, basically. 2016, they lost their president, Rockstar North, although it seems that he was actually pushed out. Anyway, so either this is just, typical things, they've been working on the same thing for a number of years and they're like, I'm bored, I want to work on something else, or some things are happening at Rockstar that they don't want to be part of anymore. Maybe the fact that they've not made anything. The fact that they're happy to just stick to GTA Online and keep making money off shark cards. Instead of actually doing anything with any of their IPs. Anyway, that's Rockstar. Moving on. Me Games shutting down. So this is kind of a weird one. So Me Games are probably known for their real-time strategy stealth games. And they have just launched a game, Shadow Gambit: The Cursed Crew. Just came out last week, maybe the week before. It's doing well. People who are into those kind of games are really, really enjoying it. But they're like, nah, we're done. we're just gonna shut down the whole studio after 15 years. I'm bored. I'm tired. I just wanna rest for a little bit. Dedicating the past decade and a half of our lives working on increasingly ambitious games took a heavy personal toll on us and our families. After the release of Shadow Gambit, we decided it was the right time to prioritize our well-being and to pull the brakes instead of signing up for another multi-year production cycle. The studio will continue to support Shadow Gambit for the next while, as they ramp down the studio over the next couple of months, and they are paying like bonuses and job assistance for people who are working for them. But it is kind of weird that you would just shut down the whole company, right? You wouldn't like. So the way they phrased it is like heavy personal toll on us and our families. It's just what's us here? Is us senior management? Is us literally just the co-founders? And if that's the case, you would think, why not like one of you? How about one of you doesn't work on the next game? You just take a break, or you alternate. 6 months one of you works on the game, 6 months the next one works on the game. That kind of thing. Or don't take on a multi-year production cycle thing again. Make a small game. Make DLC. Make anything. So people can have their jobs. Basically, it's coming from a noble, ideal, like to rest and to not launch yourselves back into another backbreaking labor for another game kind of thing. But at the same time, people fucking need work, need money, and you're pushing them into a job market where a lot of studios are shutting down. Like there's high employment in a lot of countries at the moment, but the video game industry, it's very chop and change. It's very much a project driven industry, in that once a project is done, you see a lot of layoffs, and it's kind of rare to see the whole studio shut down right after a game comes out successfully. Wish I could say in my job I need to focus on myself. Yeah, that would be great. I need to take time off. I'm gonna take a sabbatical for like 10 years. Is that okay? You can keep paying me? No? Fuck. Alright, I guess I'll stay then. God damn it. One day. I don't know, if you were co-founder of the company, Melvin, you might be able to get away with that shit. But yeah, like, I get where they're coming from, but at the same time, I think this could have been handled better so that people could have retained their job. But it's their company. It's a private company. They can do what they want with it. Anyway. Don't expect to see any more real-time strategy stealth games from those guys, I guess. Alright, Sonic Team doesn't think pixel art will be a viable style in the future, and to that I say, fuck you, Sonic Team. Once again, Kotaku have decided not to keep my highlights. Why you do this to me? Why you do this to me, Kotaku? Anyway, so this is coming off the heels of an interview with the Sonic Superstars guys. The lead producer on Sonic Superstars, Takashi Iizuka, was talking to Games Radar, and they were talking about, hey, what's the plan for Sonic? Oh, they did keep my... Why do they keep some of my highlights and not all of them? Don't get it. Anyway. So this is a quote from him. We look at the pixel art and it's great, but when we think about 10 to 20 years in the future, we don't think it's going to be a viable art style or presentation for our players. What was wrong with the last 20 years of it? It seemed fine. But I don't... What changed? What's wrong with the last 30 years of it? I don't... What changed? I don't know. What changed is the demographic, basically. Is that Sonic... The way Sega want to position Sonic is to skew much younger than what the typical demographic for Sonic is, which is a little bit older teens, and then older olds. Me. For Sonic, and the issue is that the youth, teens, or the kids, they're stupid, and they don't understand the appeal of pixel art. They think, no, that looks old and gross and horrible. I want extremely smooth Sonic. Extremely smooth Sonic cannot hurt you. That's my therapist, meanwhile. Smooth Sonic. Anyway, that's kind of it. That's just the gist of it, you know? You talk to younger children who are into Sonic, and they're like, you showed them the pixel art version of the original Sonics, or even Sonic Mania. You know, it's not even that old, but it is a pixel art Sonic, and they're like, ew, gross. Like, can't believe I'm related to you. Disgusting. Anyway, that's the way they're going with it. Anyway, Sonic Frontiers is more or less going to be the 3D Sonic going forward, the open world zone type of thing, elsewhere in the interview. And then Sonic Superstars, which is smooth Sonic 2D, is going to be how the 2D games progress from now on. Disappointing to hear that from head of the team, that they don't see pixel art being a viable thing, and I'm just hopeful that the rest of the industry doesn't think the same thing, because pixel art looks good. Anyway, hey, remember how Saints Row has just been added to PlayStation Plus, and it might see some reinvigoration in the fan base, and maybe more people get to see it, and maybe, you know, find out that actually I do enjoy it. Well, it doesn't matter because the developer's been shut down as part of the Embracer Group's restructuring efforts. So this is following on the heels of the Embracer Group's Saudi Arabian $2 billion investment falling through. They've had to scale back, apparently, because they put all of their eggs in that one basket, like very good managers do. Effective immediately, Volition Games, a studio best known for its work on Saints Row and a bunch of other games, they've been around for a long time, are being shut down, as well as some of Gearbox Publishing. So Volition were bundled into a Gearbox family, effectively, under Gearbox Publishing, and then some of Gearbox Publishing's team is also being let go. I imagine the side that handled Volition. Volition only celebrated its 30th anniversary this year, only to now be shut down. Last June, Embracer Group announced a restructuring program to, get this, strengthen and maintain its position as a leader in the video game industry. Citation needed. Embracer Group, they might own a lot of IP, but the idea that they're a leader in the video game industry while they shut down all these studios is a bit much. Anyway, Embracer is working to provide job assistance and help smooth the transition for our Volition family members. So at least they are, or at least they're saying they are providing job assistance. I guess one of the benefits for Embracer Group is that they do own a lot of developers, so it's possible they could retain a team or split them up or move them to different developers and what have you. But the move is likely to affect 340 people. So this is what I was talking about with Me games, is that they feels like they're shutting down the studio a bit premature. And, you know, they're, again, falling into a job market where a lot of studios are shutting. Like, these are 2 stories I did on studios shutting down, but there were more. There were, like, I had to pick a few. Or there were a few I had to edit out, you know, it's... Anyway... This was following Saints Row's disappointing critical and commercial reception. Saints Row did not meet the full expectations and left the fan base partially polarized. Yes, it did, because you chose to make a Saints Row game in name only. Anyway, Volition then became part of Borderlands, as I said. Yada, yada. But yeah, it's sad. Volition's been around. I think Volition did one of the original Red Factions as well. They did the Summoner game, which nobody remembers except me. It seems sometimes. Anyway, moving on. Former PlayStation exec joins Xbox to lead Japanese partnership. So, this is a thinly veiled pretense for me to shit on Sony again. Like, just heads up. Just heads up on that rant that's incoming. So Minasato Kato will be leading partnership efforts to support the Japanese partners globally for Xbox. So previously to this, she did a 7-year spell leading business development for first-party PlayStation game development in Japan. Here's where the rant comes from. What was Sony's last first-party Japanese game? Oh, wait. It was Gran Turismo. But before that... I'm not doing a bit. I am actually trying to think. What was their last first-party Japanese game before Gran Turismo? Probably Demon's Souls. That launched with the PS5. And that was a remake. It was also not done by a Japanese developer. Done by Blue Point. I don't think Blue Point are Japanese. Anyway, my point is, Sony are not really engaging with Japanese developers, particularly any of their first-party ones, because they have shut down most of them. Japan Studio was shut down. These are the people behind Shadow of the Colossus, Ico, Raiko, Last Guardian, so on. They're just not doing anything with Japanese developers, which is extremely disappointing, but then also very strange for a studio, for a company used to be based in Tokyo. The headquarters has moved to the US. And you can see it, because now they're focusing mostly on Horizon, God of War, The Last of Us, Uncharted, those kind of things. All very much Western developers. And just basically just shut out their Japanese devs, which is extremely disappointing, but it makes sense that this person would be like, hey, I basically don't have any work to do because Sony don't fucking do anything with their Japanese devs, so I'm just going to do the same job for Xbox. And that's basically what's happened here. They've let their lunch be eaten by Microsoft in this case. And that's very disappointing. I honestly cannot think of any other first-party Japanese developed game that's exclusive to Sony. Final Fantasy doesn't count because Square Enix aren't a first-party developer. What was their big game this year? They had Spider-Man 2 coming out later, and then earlier this year was Horizon. It was late last year. God of War? I thought God of War was earlier in the year. Gran Turismo maybe? Late last year. And before that was The Last of Us. There's a gap somewhere. There's like a gap there, and then Ghost of Tsushima, and I can't think what was in between them. Anyway, I'll have to look back at their release schedule. I am happy to be corrected on this and say, no, they have this Japanese first-party developer that came out and you never played it. And I'm like, completely skip past it apparently. Anyway, moving on. Spyro passes huge sales milestone, celebrates 25 years. So Spyro has sold 10 million units. So this is the remake of the Spyro trilogy, Spyro Reignited trilogy. Activision announced on Friday, developed by Toys for Bob, who they then summarily said, yeah, thanks for doing that, thanks for selling 10 million, let's go work on Call of Duty. Because they're not working on Crash Bandicoot anymore, and they're not working on Spyro anymore. They're in the Call of Duty mines. And Spyro, despite selling 10 million units since it came out like 2 years ago, maybe. Oh, 2018. I got my entire timeline. So anyway, that's still a lot of units for them to shift. And then Activision are like, yep, cool. Call of Duty. Not more Spyro, not a Spyro 4 or something. No, Call of Duty. It's all entirely because they can't live service Spyro. No, it's not monetizable for them. And they don't want to just do boxed product and go, that's it, and then we'll ship a new one, and then a new one, and so on. Like they used to do. Like the video game industry entirely used to run on. Now it has to be some kind of live service platform like Diablo, Overwatch, Warcraft, so on. Call of Duty. What Call of Duty has become used to just be a boxed single player campaign with a multiplayer on top of it, and then it just became multiplayer, and now it's a live service weird thing where Lara Croft and Nicki Minaj somehow exist at the same time. Disappointing. It's like does really well. What people wanted with 10 million units, and Activision are like, cool, don't care, doesn't make us money. SAG-AFTRA votes unanimously to expand its strike to include the games industry. So this is news. So you may not be following the SAG-AFTRA union strike going on at the moment in Hollywood, where the writers and actors on various productions have ceased work and are on strike, and they are going back and forth through negotiations. Negotiations are stalling, and then picking back up again, and then there's back and forth. But there has now been a unanimous vote to send a strike authorization to SAG-AFTRA members in interactive media, that's video games, ahead of its forthcoming bargaining dates with video game companies. So this is notice to vote to strike. So they're not actually striking yet. To vote for it. Now, usually when a vote strike authorization thing goes ahead, the strike typically also goes ahead. So key issues up for negotiation are pay and conditions, like it is for SAG-AFTRA, and then some other things that are mostly for a little bit closer for video games, which is protections against unrestrained use of artificial intelligence, which is again also in actors and writers. For video games, it's specifically the impact upon performance capture. So they can't be like, we have your performance now, or we're going to use that as a model to train an AI to build more performances out, and not pay you for it, basically. The companies involved in negotiations include, get this now, these are like the best companies: Activision, Disney, EA, Epic Games, Insomniac for some reason, and not Sony, but okay, Take-Two, and Warner Brothers. Yeah, those are all... Insomniac, as far as I'm aware, are okay, but the rest of them, they don't have a great history. I don't know about Insomniac. I feel like they've gotten a little bit too big, so probably not great, but there you have it. It has been nearly a year since SAG-AFTRA's video game contract, the Interactive Media Agreement, was extended beyond the original expiration date as we negotiated with the companies for critical terms that members needed. So it's already been a year that they've decided to extend the previous contract while they negotiate out. So they're already a year behind on this. Unfortunately, throughout negotiation, companies have failed to address those needs. For this reason, the negotiating committee and national board unanimously agreed. So basically, they're not moving their asses for negotiating a new contract, and because of that, they're like, it's already been a year. You know, you've had more than enough time at this point. So either come to the negotiating table or strike. And it seems like they're going with the or strike. We'll see how that plays out, and if the vote actually goes ahead to strike, I imagine it will. So this won't affect games coming out this year, and it probably won't affect too many the first bit of next year, so March, I'd say. And then after that, you might start seeing delays because of it. Let's see. And yeah, I just wanted to finish with this article, and I'm mostly just going to point you in its direction, and you can read through it. Starfield Review Controversy Traces Games Journalism's Orbital Decay. So this is a feature article by Brendan Sinclair, managing editor for GamesIndustry.biz. It's lengthy enough. It's part of their weekly recap column, so The second half of this article is probably not relevant, but the first half is kind of just talking about how Starfield and its release has highlighted problems in games journalism that have been there for a good while now at this point, mostly since the internet. But it just makes it very obvious how much games journalism outlets are relying on singular big games, Elden Ring, Tears of the Kingdom, that kind of thing, to drive people to their sites. And it's mostly for the guides and walkthroughs and stuff like that. And it's not really for like long form critique of the industry or of games. It's like not even the reviews really drive people there anymore. You mostly get them from YouTube, I think, is the usual case for reviews. Or they just look for the number somewhere posted on Twitter. If you're going to a game's website, typically now, it's usually for a guide or a walkthrough. Unless you're me and it's content for this video. But it does highlight that how reliant they are on it. And for some reason, a bunch of UK outlets did not get review code for Starfield. And it's still not clear why, but it is going to have a pretty significant dent in their traffic because of it. And that's not good, because you're relying on something you have no control over. These companies are relying on getting review code. And that's not a given, not a guarantee that you'll get it. Even now, we're like, why did we not get review code for Starfield? And like, no reason was given for it. And technically, Starfield's not out yet. It's not out till next week. Technically, you can play it now. If you buy like the premium edition, you get like a couple of days early, week early or something like that. I'm not sure if the Game Pass version. I think the Game Pass version comes out on its actual release date. So if you wanted to play it a week early, you'd have to actually buy it outright. But anyway, it's an interesting article. It'll be linked in the paste bin on YouTube if you're watching this on YouTube, and if you're watching this live, which going by the counters you're not, you can just go to Games Industry Biz. It's there. Search for it. Anyway, we will leave stars to background. Anyway, that was your news for the 28th to the 3rd of September 2023. There's some interesting stuff coming out of Super Mario's Wonder. It does actually look very impressive. I'm a lot more interested in playing it now than before when they showed it off. Some interesting things being shown off there for Banishers and Warhammer. They do look, PS3 type style gameplay, but I don't know why I feel weird about saying that. But it's fine. Games don't have to be ridiculously complicated. It is fine to make a double A game, as they used to be known, single A games. Not necessarily huge budget, serviceable, not doing anything particularly new or innovative. But what they do is they do it well, and they tell a different story, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I like that kind of game. It's fine. I don't need it to be innovative all the time. I don't need you to come up with a new gimmick every time. Anyway, Bloodlines 2 being handed over to the Chinese room. I don't know how I feel about it. It's just because the Chinese room they just don't have that kind of game. They've never made that kind of game before. But I could say the same thing for Sabotage Studios that are showing Sea of Stars here. They haven't made this kind of game before, and judging by the reviews, they fucking nailed it. So, who knows? Chinese room could pull it off too. The games they have made are either very good or decent. Dear Esther started the whole walking sim type thing. Everybody's Gone to the Rapture is heavily detailed. I don't particularly like the game myself, but I can't ignore that it is, production value is excellent. And as far as I'm aware, Amnesia Machine for Pigs is the weakest Amnesia. So they have a strange up and down track record, basically. Case of the Golden Idol has a browser-based version. Check it out. Browser-based demo. You don't even have to download anything. Just open Chrome or Firefox, Safari, whatever. Actually, maybe not whatever. It's possible it doesn't work on some of them. Some of them it'll work on, though, I'm sure. New releases, Sea of Stars, as you're showing here, it's really, as according to reviews at least, it's really, really good. What we played of it on Steam Next Fest, I really liked. So I'm not surprised it's getting good high reviews. Under the Waves is getting fairly middling reviews, which is expected. It's like a budget, not budget entry, but like a smaller entry from Quantic Dream, so it's not surprising. Other things, the PS Plus price going up significantly and nothing particularly new being added to it. Or nothing new, really, being added to it, other than like the essential games that are like it's every month they get swapped in. The extra money, it's not clear what's the purpose. Sony are just saying it will allow us to continue to deliver quality games to the thing, and maybe it'll allow them to pay more for bigger games. I don't know. Like, it's the way the subscription service works is that in lieu of you launching not on PlayStation Plus, to get you to launch in PlayStation Plus will give you a big chunk of change right now to make up for lost sales, effectively. And the idea is that you'll make more from the whatever check Sony cut or whatever check Microsoft cut for Game Pass than you would from relying on your own marketing and selling units and stuff like that. And that's kind of the bet you make, that you'll make more money from this big lump sum that the company gives you versus trying to sell your individual unit. And it might just be the case that Sony need more money. Doubt it, but we'll see. There's also a rumor that there might be State of Play this month. Spider-Man 2 is out pretty soon, so they might want to show off a bit more of it. And also, we don't know what they're doing next year, really. A Wolverine, maybe, but I feel like it would be a bit too soon. But otherwise, what are Santa Monica working on? Don't know. It's God of War Ragnarok. They did say there wouldn't be a third one. Horizon, it's too soon for there to be another Horizon. Sucker Punch, Ghost of Tsushima, guys. It's been a while since Ghost of Tsushima, so they might have something to show. We'll see. And of course, Japanese first-party developers, Sony known for catering to them so well that I'm sure there'll be plenty of them. Alright, anyway, moving on. That is our news, but what is happening on the channel this week? So, right, so here is our roadmap for the second half of 2023. Games with green symbols have been featured on the channel. Games with yellow symbols are currently being featured. Gray symbol, it's on its way, and if there's no symbol, I don't know, it'll appear at some point. If it has this gold wedge beside it, it's a full Let's Play. So, examples, greens, After Image we played this week. Final Fantasy as part of Fully Plays Final Fantasy series, we finished earlier in the month. Sinking City was a Fully Fables we've done, and so on. Fantasy 16 is currently being played, and It Takes Two with Melwen is currently being played through as well. And Resident Evil Nemesis will be the next plays Resident Evil game. So, what happened this week? This week we played a black screen, apparently, because it was. Okay, interesting. Anyway, we did 10 for everybody or something. Anyway, After Image we played as part of Fully Plays Games a Bit, which is a game series where we play newly released titles for a bit. After Image came out in April. Newly released is like 6 months. I know. I know. I need a long window so these games can end up in a sale or something. I get them a little bit cheaper. After Image is really good. I really liked it. It's a Metroidvania. It has a bunch of different weapons that you can swap into different weapon styles. Some of the bosses are a bit cheap, and it has that kind of annoying Metroidvania thing that if the enemy just touches you, you take damage, and I hate it. I hate that mechanic so much. But that's not After Image's fault. That is literally the genre. That's what it does. Some games let you turn it off, and I appreciate those games because I hate that mechanic so much. But the games that don't, like, whatever, it's part of the genre. I can't really get annoyed about it. But yeah, I was really liking it. It's very anime. To be fair, it is very anime. And that might throw off some people, but I liked it. That was after Image. It Takes Two. Myself and Melvin were playing through it yesterday. Thought we might finish it. I think we're on the last chapter, so our next stream of this might be short. To talk to Melvin about that, see if maybe we can have a second game ready to go. Something. Anyway, I'm enjoying it. I'm less enjoying the characters because they turned out to be just horrible people, horrible people as it transpires. But the gameplay is fun, and it changes itself up enough that every chapter, every section is kind of fresh. You're always doing something different. It would be nice if there was a single player option for it, but there isn't. What have you? Anyway, Ghost Trick. YouTube has moved on. Ghost Trick Phantom Detective. We are playing that currently. Leaving for a while, so maybe pause it. Yeah, I suppose we could do that too. Anyway, Ghost Trick Phantom Detective is in our Fully Fable series. It's a series where we play games for their story. Ghost Trick Phantom Detective is a kind of a Rube Goldberg machine kind of thing. You are Cecil, recently deceased, but your ghost has not passed on just yet, and you can now possess objects and interact with them and make them do things. And you use this ability to travel back in time, stick with me here, to before characters died and change things in the environment so that they don't die. And they're gradually making our way through the story. There's been some shenanigans. This is from the same creator who made Ace Attorney, so it has the same level of comedy. It's a very dumb story. Very animated characters, very cartoonish in a lot of ways, but it's very good. I'm not surprised. It is a cult classic for a lot of people who did play it when it came out originally. Anyway, that's Ghost Trick. We're also playing through Final Fantasy 16. Again, it's still relatively close to when it came out, so I don't really want to spoil the story. But we're getting close to the end. We're moving towards Bahamut right now, put it that way. I think I will stream a little bit of this also later today, maybe around 3 o'clock or so. Because I really want to know what happens now in the story, and I don't really want to wait next week. But that is the plan for that. Speaking of next week, I need to know what is going to be the next game that we will feature in Foley Plays Games a bit. So I have added to the list Daymare 1994 Sandcastle, which is a janky version of Resident Evil, basically, and Tenebris Pictura, which is this kind of top-down. How to explain Tenebris Pictura? It's like you jump into different paintings, and those paintings have their own separate worlds that you can move around in. It has a really interesting art style. What I've seen from its reviews, it's probably not a great game, but the mechanic is interesting, and I just want to see how they work with it. So, see how that turns out. Anyway, there's 10 games on the list, which means this requires 11 spins for it to be fair. Currently, score-wise, Atlas Fallen is sitting at the top at +5, followed by After Us at +4, followed by My Friendly Neighborhood at +3. Then joint after that at +2 is Viewfinder, The Spirit and the Mouse, Primal Clock, and then finally it's The Sprawl at +1. That leaves Bomb Rush, Cyberpunk, Tenebris Pictura, and Daymare on a flat score. So, get your predictions in. Which is it going to be? Probably Atlas Fallen, because it's not a +5, but anyway. Spin 1. Alright. Bomb Rush is on the board. Spin 2. Friendly Neighborhood. Okay. Spin 3. Primal Clock. 4. Bomb Rush again. Okay. Good. Spin 5. Spirit on the Mouse. Spin 6. Bomb Rush rapidly going up the charts here. Okay, spin 7. Viewfinder. Spin 8. Primal Clock. Okay. Spin 9. After Us. think that puts it joint with Atlas Fallen now. And 10. Atlas Fallen +6. So unless After Us comes in here, it's probably going to be Atlas Fallen. Alright, Bomb Rush tried, but did not quite make it to the top. So Atlas Fallen at a +6, which means that's the gun we'll be looking at later. Atlas Fallen has a little bit of Forspoken to it. It's like a big, open, desolate world where the traversal and the combat is really good, and everything else is not great. Basically, and Forspoken had the same issue. It's like the world looks nice, traversal around the world is great, combat is really good, everything else is bad. So I don't know. We'll see the same thing with Atlas Fallen. It is co-op though, so that might be interesting if I can rope somebody into playing it. Maybe. Doubt it. It's very expensive. I wouldn't say so. It's still a full-priced game. Anyway, Atlas Fallen, and then After Us, Crime O'Clock, and Bomb Rush jumped way ahead. +4. Those 2 new games I added did not make it onto the board at all. Anyway, Atlas Fallen. So let me add that to our schedule. So Melwin is not around next weekend, so instead we Atlas Fallen there. A for Atlas. A lot of games would start with A. I have to scroll. Anyway, Atlas Fallen. So next week, Tuesday, Ghost Trick Phantom Detective. No stream on Wednesday. Doing things. Thursday, Final Fantasy 16. Friday, no stream. D&D. Hopefully. Crossed. And then fully plays games a bit. Atlas Fallen. Actually, bit in. Might have to change the color on that. It's hard to see. That's the plan for next week. Right, that is your news and your channel update for this week. Thanks for dropping in, Melwin, and anyone who might have been lurking in the background. Appreciate it as well. If you want to catch up on previous week's news, I don't know why you'd want to, since it's stale at that point, but it's over on youtube.com/JimTrain5 if you want to catch up on any of those Let's Plays and be ready for their newest entry this week. Same place, Ghost Trick, Final Fantasy 16. You can find those there, as well as previous entries in the Follow the Plays Games a Bit series, which are kind of one-shots, 2 or 3 hours of the opening of the game. I'm going to head off. As I said, I may be back later for Final Fantasy 16. Keep an eye on your notifications. If not, see you in Melwin's chat. She's playing Citizen Sleeper later today. That's a really good game, and I'm looking forward to it. Right. Have a good one, and see you at some point. I don't know. Eventually.